It is a cold, biting morning on October the 10th, 1943, when pilot Robert Rosie Rosenthal steps into the briefing room of the 100th Bomb Group. 60 airmen sit before him, including his co-pilot, Winifred "Pappy" Lewis, and navigator Ronald Bailey, all waiting in tense silence. The briefing officer announces the target: Münster, not its factories, but the old town cathedral, shocking the entire room. Major John Egan, fueled by grief from previous losses, cheers the mission, believing it to be justified revenge. Outside, the B-17 flying fortresses roar to life, and the Royal Flush takes her dangerous position at the very back of the formation. The crews expect 216 P-47 escorts over Holland, but as they cross the coastline, no fighters appear to protect them. Soon they learn the grim truth. Bad weather grounded the escorts, leaving the bombers alone deep inside enemy territory. German fighters begin isolated attacks, picking off bombers ahead, and tension across the formation rises sharply. Then, a massive wave of Me-109s and FW-190s bursts onto the scene, plunging straight into the bombers. The sky explodes with tracers, cannon fire, and burning metal as Me-110s arrive from behind, launching deadly rockets. A rocket slams into Major Egan's B-17, crippling the Mademoiselle Zigzag and forcing it to fall behind the formation. Without realizing it, several bombers slow down to match Egan's pace, forming a dangerously isolated group of 11. German pilots immediately spot the stragglers and dive toward them, unleashing a brutal, relentless assault. One fortress erupts into flames, another spirals downward, and a third tries to escape home, but is shredded by fighters. Egan's crippled aircraft finally becomes the focus, and with systems failing, he orders his crew to bail out. Back on the Royal Flush, the men watch in horror as their comrades fall one by one in smoke and fire. A rocket suddenly rips through the Royal Flush's wing, knocking out 2 engines and shaking the entire aircraft violently. Navigator Bailey shouts that they are close to the target as the fighters pull away and the flak guns of Münster take over. Every anti-aircraft gun in the city fires at the last 3 bombers still alive, tearing the sky with explosions. One B-17 ignites and its crew bails, while another takes a direct hit and disintegrates in mid-air instantly. The Royal Flush becomes the last bomber remaining, limping alone through a storm of black, bursting flak. Rosenthal hands control to the bombardier, the bombsair released, and he immediately pulls the aircraft out of danger. But as they clear the city, more German fighters arrive, descending from the clouds for the final kill. Rosenthal throws the bomber into violent, evasive maneuvers, breaking every flying rule just to keep them alive. Rear gunner Sergeant Bill DeBlasio fires with deadly precision, taking down multiple attackers in a blaze of courage. More rockets streak past the tail as machine gun fire rips into the fuselage, wounding both waist gunners severely. DeBlasio continues firing until 2 more fighters fall, and finally, low on fuel, the Germans retreat. The Royal Flush, bleeding altitude, is still somehow flying, but Rosenthal orders the crew to dump every bit of weight they can. Oxygen tanks, ammunition, and even guns are thrown overboard in a desperate attempt to stay in the air. Back at Thorpe Abbotts, mechanics and officers stare at the horizon, waiting for any sign of the 100th Bomb Group. Every other unit has returned, but not a single aircraft from the 100th has appeared, raising dread across the base. Then, faint and smoking, a lone B-17 emerges over the horizon, the Royal Flush barely holding together. It touches down, skids to a stop, and the engines shut off as the broken crew steps out into the silent airfield. There is no cheering, no celebration, only the heavy truth that they are the sole survivors of the mission. The raid becomes one of the darkest days for the 8th Air Force, and the 100th earns the tragic name, the Bloody Hundredth. Of the 130 men who went down, 37 are killed, and 93 are captured as prisoners of war in Germany. The Royal Flush returns alone, carrying the final story of the men who never came home.